Hey guys, in today's math lesson, we're going to be starting a new math unit. So we're going to be learning about percents. So the first thing is to know what a percent is. And so a percent is how many parts out of 100. Okay, and just 100 specifically. So it's parts per 100. Okay, it's always out of 100. So if we think about, for example, like a fraction, this would be if its denominator was 100, and then we would have some number at the top, okay, some number here. And then that would be a percentage, okay? So we have a symbol for percent, which looks like two little circles. It's got a little slash through it. That's the percentage symbol. If you break the word percent down, per means for every, and then cent means 100, and so percent kind of means for every 100. So a few things to think about before we start. Let's think about what would 100% mean. 100% means 100 out of 100. And so I'm trying to go back to fractions to help you realize if I have 100 out of 100, I have all of it, okay? I have all, I have the total, I have a whole, okay? So that is what 100% means. It means 100 out of 100, all, total, or whole. So what would 50% mean? 50% would mean 50 out of 100, okay? And we know that that's the same as a half. If we were to simplify that fraction, that's the same as a half. So 50% means half of 100%, and it means 50 out of 100. Okay, and then 25%. Let's think about what that might mean. If we think about 25%, we have 25 out of 100. If you simplified that, that would be 1/4. So 25% means a fourth of 100%. Okay, and then it means 25 out of 100. Okay, so one of the first things that's helpful when you're learning about percent is to look at a percentage on a 10 by 10 grid. And it's 10 by 10 because 10 by 10 makes 100. So each one of these grids that we have on this sheet, they all have 100 squares. Okay, so what we're going to do is model or shade in these grids to show the percentage that's shown. Okay, so if I look at number 1, it says 54%. So let's start out with what we know that means. We know that means 54 out of 100. So if this grid has 100 squares, which it does, then what we need to shade is 54 out of the 100. Okay, so if you shade one entire row, you're going to have 10, or column. You can shade columns or rows. I prefer columns. So now I've got 2, so that would make 20. 3 columns would be 30. 4 columns now is 40. 5 columns gives me 50, and now I need 4 more. Okay, so this would be a picture of what 54% is, and you can tell it's a little more than half. And so let's go on to number 2. We're going to shade 30% of this grid. 30% means 30 out of 100. So if we shade it, all we have to do is shade 30 squares. And that would be very fast and easy because I would shade 3 columns or shade 3 rows. And that is 30 of the little squares out of the 100. So 30% compared to the whole is not a lot compared to the whole, okay? So let's go on to the next one. The next one says 3%. Well, 3% means 3 out of 100. So if we're thinking about compared to all 100, if we only have 3 out of 100, it would look like this. And you can tell that that's a very tiny amount compared to 100. Okay, so 3% is pretty small. So next let's look at number 4. It says using the grids below, shade in 25% 2 different ways. Okay, we know that 25% means 25 out of 100. So we are going to do that in 2 different ways. So one way you could do that is to shade your columns. So we could go up and down. That would give me 20. And then I could shade 5 more, and that would be 25%. I could also go across and do this by rows, and I would shade 25 that way. Okay, that's 2 different ways to see the 25% there. So now let's go more towards solving problems with this as our foundation. So it says in the whole class example, there were 100 pounds of apples harvested from an orchard. 25% were Red Delicious. 40 pounds were Golden Delicious. The rest were Granny Smith. On a grid, represent each type of apple by pound and percent. How many pounds were Granny Smith apples? All right, so what we're going to do is use 3 different colors. We're going to start out by shading, or going back to our word problem, and starting here with this important information. There were 100 pounds to begin with. So we can automatically know that this grid to the side can be representing all 100 pounds of apples. So each individual square is going to represent 1 pound of apples. Okay. The next important thing to catch in the description was that 25% were Red Delicious. 25%. So 25% for Red Delicious means 25 out of the 100. So I'm going to go ahead and use red to represent Red Delicious. So I'm going to go ahead and shade 25%. Okay, so that would be 2 entire columns, or if you prefer to do rows, that's okay also. And so this is what our Red Delicious amount out of the 100 would look like. Okay. So now let's go to the next part of what it said. It said that 40 pounds were Golden Delicious. Okay, so we want to label that over here. In the Golden Delicious, there were 40 pounds. Now, back in the beginning, it told us that total we had 100 pounds of apples. So if we have 40 pounds out of 100 pounds, then that means 40%. So we can shade 40% on our grid over here. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to get a gold color, okay, and shade for the Golden Delicious. So I'm going to shade 40, and I'm going to come over here because I don't want to bunch up next to my 25 yet, okay, because we left off with 25 over there. And so I just want to be able to shade 4 nice, straight, easy columns, okay, because that gives me 40. Okay, so right there I just shaded 40. So that represents our Golden Delicious. The last thing that this next sentence says is the rest were Granny Smith. Okay, so on the grid, represent each type of apple by pound and percent. We've already done the Red Delicious, that's in the red. We've already done the Golden Delicious, that is in the golden color. And the rest, the rest. So everything I didn't shade there in the white is how many pounds or how many percent are the Granny Smith. So all we have to do is count that. Okay, so everything here in the white is Granny Smith. So let's count it. And if you know Granny Smith apple, you know that it's green. So I'm going to go ahead and shade those green, and then we can count that as we go. So we have 10, 20, 30, and then this is 5 more. So we have 35. So we have 35%, which means 35 out of 100. So how many pounds were Granny Smith apples? 35 pounds were Granny Smith apples. Okay? So that's what you're going to be doing in this lesson. That was one example. Let's practice several others. So number 1 says the paper carrier delivers 100 newspapers on Sunday. If 65% were delivered before noon, how many still need to be delivered? So we really want to focus on what the question's asking. How many still need to be delivered? And so what that really means, guys, is how many of them have not been delivered yet. Okay? So we know that the grid has 100 squares. We're going to shade the amount that we do have. Okay? It told us that the paper carrier has delivered 65% already. So let's shade in 65%. Okay, so there would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 65. So now the amount that's remaining is what he has not delivered. And that is the part the question is asking about, which is right here. Okay? And so if you count that amount, that is 35 out of 100. And so the number that still needs to be delivered is 35. Okay? So let's go on to number 2. Number 2 says 35% of the cars at a dealership come with a 5-year warranty. The rest come with a 3-year warranty. What percent come with a 3-year warranty? So you have to watch very carefully because it says the rest come with the 3-year warranty. So 35% have a 5-year warranty and the rest come with a 3-year warranty. We are answering how many come with a 3-year warranty. So what we can do is shade the 35%, 10, 20, 30, 5. Again, that is how many come with a 5-year warranty. The rest is everything we didn't shade. Everything we didn't shade, so what's in white. And that's the number that comes with a 3-year warranty. Okay, so if we count that, we have 65. Okay, so 65% come with a 3-year warranty. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 says, the ratio unit covers 100 pages in the textbook. The class has covered 85% of it. How many pages are left to cover? So they have already covered 85%, but the question says how many pages are left. So not the 85%, how much is left is what we're answering. So let's show what 85% would look like. So we're going to shade 85. So that's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and then there's 85. So how many are left? How many pages would be left, okay, for them to cover? And so if you count all those that are not shaded there, that's the answer to our question. So that would be 15 pages that would be left. Okay, let's check number 4. It says there were 72 sunny days during the first 100 days of school. What percent of days were not sunny? Okay, so there were 72 sunny days out of 100. So we know that we can use this 100 grid. But it says what percent of days were not sunny. So let's figure out on the grid. Let's shade in 72. There would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and then 2 more. And then everything else that's left is how many days were not sunny. Okay, so if we count all those that are remaining, we have 28. So there were 28 days that were not sunny. Okay, number 5. There were 100 boys in the gym. 47 of them had on gray sweatshirts. What percentage of boys didn't have on gray sweatshirts? So 47 had on a gray sweatshirt, but the question is asking what percent didn't have on a gray sweatshirt. So that would be whatever's left over out of 100. So we're going to shade 10, 20, 30, 40, and then 47. And then everything else that is left is going to be the number of boys that didn't have on a gray sweatshirt. Okay, so if you count that, it is 53. One more to go, and it says there were 100 resolutions made at a New Year's Eve party. 68% of them are already broken. How many resolutions are not broken? So 68% is broken. The question says how many are not broken. Okay, so let's shade 68%. Okay, and then everything else that is left would be the amount that is not broken. So how many New Year's resolutions are not broken? And so the answer to this would be 32.